Hey everybody, this is Larry from the Shizzle Network here, back again with yet another how-to video. Yes, I'm going to be making how-to videos a little bit more commonly because I see that my how-to videos are actually getting like a ton of likes, so I figured, I would actually do this. But in any case, today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to install custom firmware on your PSP. Pretty much, this is one of the most popular. This is one of the most popular tutorial videos on YouTube. There are many examples. This is my own take on it. Some people might agree or disagree with me, but it's okay. Just let me know if it works for you or not. But with that said, though, we're gonna be beginning this tutorial. The PSP is on right now, which is great. So this is what we're gonna do. As you can see, I already have the PSP custom firmware folder. But like I said, if you guys want the link, it is in the description below. So be sure to download that if you guys are trying to do this, and be sure to follow me along as I go through the instructions. I'm going to open up the zip file right here. As you can see, it's done in the style of how a PSP should look. So don't you see how, like, in the PSP folder, you can clearly see that, there's a PSP folder, and when you go in there, there's a big folder that says game, and then they all appear right here. Yeah, as you can see, I already have custom firmware on here, but like I said, I'm just showing you how to do it. But yeah, it's the same thing. All you gotta do is just take this file and just drag it on there, because when you go in there, you can see PSP, you can see game in there, you can see the flash on the update. What I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna drag this folder into the root of the PSP file, and now what it's gonna do is gonna transfer right over there. And like I said, I already have the files on here, so I just really don't need to do that. But yeah, if you don't have it on there, it will work for you. But if you already do have it on there and you're actually replacing the folder, yeah, definitely replace all the files that's definitely in it, assuming if that happens. Now, as you can see, when I go into the game folder, they're both here. So yeah, that's only putting the custom firmware files on here. About this download right here, I'm not sure what's going on here. Okay, it's gonna take a little while, but that's okay because I already do have some games on here that I want to show. Now, just let me show you one quick thing real quick before we get to the PSP. As you can see, I already do have a few PSP games on here. There should be a folder called ISOs. And then, as you can see, I have a bunch of CSOs. If you don't know what CSOs are, they're types of PSP gaming files, but basically they're compressed versions of the ISO files. Like, you could put ISO files and CSO files. You only use CSO files if you want to compress, like, the space, on your memory stick from ISOs. So really, they're both the same file types. The only difference is that CSOs are, like, much shorter. That's really it. So yeah, now that we got that done, since we already put the custom firmware files on there, we are going to head to the PSP, where I will show you from there how to put custom firmware. I mean, how do you? I'm sorry, my grammar's messed up. But how you install custom firmware on your PSP. Okay, so after doing all of that, now we are about to install custom firmware onto the PSP. Now here's the one thing that I do want to show you right before we actually get started here. So the one thing that you'll notice is that currently I haven't even put it on there. I haven't put it on here yet. So once I go into the system settings right here, and then I go all the way down to system information, as you can clearly see, I don't actually have custom firmware installed yet because it's still currently on its official firmware, which is 6.60. So what's going to happen is that we are going to install it on here. Now here's the one thing that you'll notice. Remember those CSO files that I showed you that would normally show up on this PSP, but it's not there because custom firmware is not on there. It's the same deal with the PS1 games. Now I'm going to switch memory sticks really quick just to show you exactly what I mean. So when I try to boot up a PS1 game like this one, Resident Evil, you can see this little icon around it, which indicates that it will not run because of it pretty much just says it right there. Copyright protection is invalid. That's because, like I said, since we're on the official firmware and not the custom firmware, it's not going to work. So I'm going to switch out the memory stick, and I'm going to put the 2 gig one back because that one has custom firmware on it. And now what we're going to do is that we're just simply going to go into the memory stick, and what we're going to do is that we're just simply going to hit this one right here. There's two files in it. You have the flasher, which you really don't need to use, but you have this one right here. This is the one that you'll need to use right here. This is the 6.60 Pro C updater, as you can see. And now what's going to happen is that, like I said, we're on the official firmware. I'm going to hit X, and it's going to boot up. Like I said, it only works for those who have version 6.60 on their PSPs. If you don't, then you're pretty much going to have to search up like other versions of, this version. Now you will come to this prompt right onto your PSP, which reads X to launch custom firmware, triangle to uninstall custom firmware, L to reinstall it, and then R to exit. Now, the one thing that you'll want to do is just simply hit X. Now, I know for first-time viewers, like for first-timers, a lot of files will show up in which it's installing custom firmware, but since I've used custom firmware on here before, it'll just simply launch up custom firmware for me. So all you're going to do is just hit X. Okay, so it detects it and it's complete. Now I'm going to hit X again. And now what's going to happen is that the PSP is going to automatically reboot into custom firmware. Now the console boots up. Now I'm going to go into the system information in the system settings over here. Yes, and now when I go into the system information, there you go. Not only does the MAC address change, but also the custom firmware version has also changed as well. You can see that it says 6.60 Pro C. So now custom firmware is actually on here. Now, when you go into the memory stick, now remember the CSO files? As I said before, now the games actually show up. Now you can see I have Street Fighter Alpha 3 Max, Grand Theft Auto Liberty Cities, Twisted Metal Head On, and Space Invaders Extreme. Now I'm gonna switch the memory sticks once more, and now I can finally open up PS1 games on here. Just give it some time to load here. All right, so so here's another. This is my third memory stick actually. Here it is. Now I can actually boot up Resident Evil on here. And not only just that, but I can also play like any other PSP game on here that I want, like Tekken Dark Resurrection, Wipeout Pure, Crisis Core, Final Fantasy, literally anything. So like if you have an ISO file or a CSO file, then you can put it in your ISO folder and they will show up in your memory stick. For now though, I will actually, hang on, I'm going to swap this. Well, actually I want to keep it in there, I'm sorry. So, hang on, let me control the focus here. I apologize, it's always a pain in the butt. But anyway, I'm going to boot up Resident Evil just to show you exactly how it works here. Now, I know if you have a PSX and PSP like a creator, you can take any PS1 ROM that you want and turn it into your own e-boot. But like I said, if you just want some quick downloadable ones, then eMove Paradise is the way to go. And as you can see, the game boots up. Pretty much, it functions the exact same way it would if you were to have like a PS1 game on your PSP. It would just boot up the same way. So pretty much, it's the same exact game, nothing different. So right now it's booting up. So right now it's booting up the game right here. And there it goes. Now you have custom firmware on here. And as I said before, Resident Evil comes up just fine. Looks really good. Oh yeah, and Resident Evil is one of my all-time favorite survival horror classics, by the way. But yeah, I just thought I'd, throw that out there. So now I'm just gonna quit the game, and I'm going to show you how the PSP games will also run. Just bear this in mind: certain PSP games under CSOs are not going to work. Sometimes it really depends on the ROM. But in this case, I will boot up a PSP game. I will boot up Tekken Dark Resurrection, just to show you exactly that it actually does work. And like I said, there are certain PSP files that you should be keeping as an ISO and not convert into a CSO, but it really depends on the game. But for the most part, you don't really need to change anything. So right now the game is booting up. It takes time to boot up because since this is a 4 gig memory stick, that's actually from SanDisk and not Sony. It does take a little bit of time. I think this only applies to all kinds of memory sticks, even if it's not made by Sony. But yeah, PSP games do take a lot of time to boot. However, if you were to put like a PS1 game on a 4 gig memory stick, it will come up just fine. So as you can see, the game boots up just fine. If I was to put this on the 2 gig memory stick, as I said before, it would boot up much quicker. But there you go. This is Tekken as it happens. And like I said, the game actually comes up just the way it's supposed to. So now you have custom firmware on your latest version of PSP. Now, if you guys do have like any questions or further comments about how this works, please let me know in the comments below. I know for some people the custom firmware version doesn't work at all, which I'm not sure why. But if it doesn't work at all, then that's all right. Just let me know if anything goes wrong. I'm bound to actually help out anybody's problems. Just if this doesn't work for you, just don't plain dislike the video unless without giving a fair judgment. Just let me know firsthand if it doesn't work or not, and I will help out your issue as long as you point out what the problem is. I will actually help out anybody who's having trouble with these custom firmware files of for PSP. So that's about it for this tutorial video. Like I said, it works for PSP and PS1. So if you guys did enjoy this tutorial video and it was very informative, be sure to subscribe for more because I will be making more tutorial videos in the future. I'm still planning them right now, but just let me know. Anyways, I'm going to head out of here. Peace out. This is Beyond the Infinite. And as always, think for yourself.